I thought I'd talk a little bit about why I made the decision to go on sabbatical now that I've had some time to process. So I'd mentioned in 2023 that when I did my 2022 taxes, I took a business loss of like $8,000, meaning I worked full time and I made negative $8,000. And it happens. You buy more yarn than people have interest in purchasing from you, so you have dead stock. Just yarn that doesn't sell. I'm currently sitting on like $3,000 worth of yarn in my shop that hasn't sold. And our business is sort of in a free fall, and it has been, and there's been no recovery from COVID. You know, I was fortunate enough to have my fiber represented at Vogue and also do stitches in 2018 and 2019 and have fiber there. And I had 100% sell through both years. And, you know, I've been selling yarn for 16 years, so I've seen ups and I've seen downs, but this is unprecedented. I think it's really hard if you look in your Instagram feed and you follow any of the indie dyer tags, you're gonna see people are hurting and closing. And there's an indie dyer group on Facebook that I am in, and every single day someone's selling their proofer, their dyes, their pans, their trays, the yarn, and getting back into the workforce. And the only thing keeping me in yarn right now and not skipping off to get a regular job is the commitment to finish the book. It's going to be finished even if I'm making negative money every month, just to keep investing the time to shoot, edit, upload, format, all that stuff. I said I was going to do it, took money to do it, doing it. Timeline's going to be stretched, but it is what it is. So it's kind of hard for me to have the zest and the joy to do teaching for free to the public, to do trunk shows when they're selling such a small amount that the cost to ship it out and back is actually a business loss because you don't sell enough yarn to make it worth having shipped it anywhere. So, you know, and I used to teach all the time, but not many people can afford these classes or the travel, which is a lot more expensive. And the core audience of people that wanted to learn how to dye professionally so they could skip the R&D stage and get into dyeing yarn themselves as a hobby dyer for, you know, a side hustle. Anybody trying to do that today, it would be like buying the ticket to the Titanic while it's sinking. I have yet to hear of a single person who's doing better during the pandemic who is a small independent dyer. Not one, but I get texts from fellow dyers who are auctioning off the yarn for a fraction of what they bought it for just so they can keep current, you know, and I just can't find that drive that I've had since October of 2008 when I first picked up a pair of needles and was dyeing yarn within a matter of weeks. That creative spirit and that joy for our community, it's just gone. And it's really, it's sad. It's me coming to terms with our industry as I knew it is no more. And I don't see a sustainable way forward. You know, when you buy the yarn, it's about $8 after taxes. And then you've got dye power, acid water. That's probably another $1.50 depending on how much dye you're using, which dye you're using. It can be more or less. And then, you know, you got to dye it. So you've got dye power, acid water, and your time. Now, depending on what setup you have, if you've got a proofer, then you're dyeing yarn, you know, you can dye like 50, 60 skeins at a time every 2 hours. But if you've got a bain-marie or a steamer or just a pot on a stove, your output is very low. So the number of skeins you can do an hour means that you probably can't even afford to wholesale, which, by the way, people who own yarn shops that are still in business are not asking for wholesale orders. They want a trunk show. And, you know, trunk show, they typically want 50-50. If you're lucky, you can get 60-40 your way. But they're taking, you know, if they sell 5 skeins and you had it there for 2 months, you're going to get your product back and it's going to be hairy and roughed up. because, you know, it goes in and out of bags, in and out of a box, it gets shipped. And then all the people that touched it and manhandled it to get it on the wall, get it off the wall, pack, unpack. So they're not in pristine condition anymore. And you have a check for $32. I don't see a way forward for me to continue selling yarn as a full-time business. So I'm actually considering going into hair because I'm really good with color, and all of my friends, if you know me in real life, you have probably had your hair done by me. And I love curly hair and the curly hair movement, and everybody needs their hair cut. Not everybody needs a $32, $35, or $50 skein of yarn. So that's where I'm at. I obviously will always hope for change and an upward trajectory, but I just don't see it. I'm actually very nervous about releasing a super intensive multi-year book project onto a market where people don't really, you know, want to do this anymore. It's become an industry that's dead in the water, right? Stitches going bankrupt, and the number of dyers that have closed up shop that did 10 times the volume I did. How could I ever expect to come back if they can't make a comeback? You know, Etsy takes 10% and 5% of shipping. That's a lot. That's a lot. Shopify used to be $9.99. Now it's $40-something a month, plus the transaction fees. So, you know, the cost of the dye, the power, the acid, the water is up. The rental on the space is up. The fiber cost is up. The dye cost is up. And my customers' pocketbooks cannot afford a $350 sweater project, nor do I blame them. So if you've ever been on YouTube and searched up a frost yarn tutorial and felt like you got some edification out of it, that makes me so grateful for the 16 years I've been creating content and freely teaching to the public. Still working on the book. I'm going to be showing up for Instagram with what I do on the sabbatical. When I come back from sabbatical, I have some classes in the works. I will be spending all the available moments when I'm not with my children on the book, but I don't want to release something that's half-baked. And the amount of research on some of these processes is really, really time intense, like hundreds of hours per technique, time intense. And I think it's worth it, but so that's where things are. Thank you for listening. And if you have any comments or anything you'd like to share, I'd love to hear it. And have a great Saturday night.